Heading into week 3 of the NFL season, can you really have a must-win game? Let's talk about it right here next on Cowboy Spit.
Here we go! Yeah, here we go! Wait, take Cowboy Spit.
Throws back of the end zone. There's CeeDee Lamb.
What's going on, Cowboy fans? Cowboy C3 here. Well, had a couple of days to digest this previous game, if that's what you want to call it, contest, ass whooping, whatever you want to call it. Cowboys and the Saints. Went back and watched a lot of game film, a lot of highlights, just kind of checking things out just to see like what went wrong. See if I could find what went wrong. Saw a lot of things. Defensively, on a lot of plays, especially their interior defensive linemen, they were getting pushed off the ball. Not necessarily out of position, just manhandled, like being put out of position, not actually like lining up or moving out of position, just being driven out of position, if that makes more sense. A lot of times they were in the laps of the linebackers, and the linebackers got to fight through him, fight through the man that's blocking him, fight through the man that's trying to block him, and then try to get to the ball. By then it's too late. Kamara was a lot of times not even touched, so he was 5 yards down the field. Offensively, a lot of missed assignments. It seemed like, especially your right tackle, he was, a lot of times it seemed like he was in hand fights with Granderson and just getting his hand slapped down, going around and putting pressure on Dak. Dak had a lot of people at his feet, kind of putting his feet in awkward positions, and then throwing inaccurate passes. Run plays, there was a lot of plays where we run such a simple zone running scheme. A lot of times running backs, especially Deuce Vaughn on a couple runs, he was just reading the wrong hole. Sometimes there was holes going outside. He was running the ball back inside. There was just a lot of things that they need to clean up. But the biggest thing that I noticed was, and it's been this way with this team for a while, right? And I'm talking about like the core of this team, right? There's no urgency. There's no, if a team comes out like the Saints did, come out and they punch you in the mouth like you want to get your get back, I'm gonna punch them back, right? And there just doesn't seem to be that urgency with this football team. And a lot of times that comes from leadership, not only on the field, right, but off the field, the coaches, right? There has to be a time where the coaches just say, I'm not going to take this anymore, right? You need to go sit down. We'll put somebody in, next man up, get in there. It doesn't matter who it is, right? A lot of your key players in this game were largely ineffective, especially on the defensive side. They got beat with, Diggs and I understand Diggs is coming back from an injury, right? But he looked to be at full speed week 1. You have a rookie at the other cornerback. He's going to get beat on some routes. Olave just ran him across the field the entire game. They ran crossing routes to perfection. A lot of screen passes, a lot of things like that. They run a lot of misdirection. That Shanahan offense, where you just got guards and tackles pulling, you can center pulling, a lot of motion going one way and they'll pop out the other way. Just a lot of things that were confusing to the Cowboys. And, serving up what in football they would call a lot of eye candy, right? Well, it gets worse this week. It gets worse. Ravens come into town. Ravens are 0-2. Just blew a crazy. They lost to the Super Bowl, defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs on the last play of the game. Literally lost by a toe, right? They come in last week with a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter against the Raiders and blew it. Just blew it. Couldn't finish. And came down to the last play of the game again. I think Lamar Jackson had like a 45-yard run at the end of the game. He tried to pitch the ball backwards, and they went into that hole, throw the ball backwards, ended up throwing it forward. Ball got fumbled. It was just a melee at the end of the game. Even if they would have picked it up and scored, it still would have been a penalty because it would have been a legal forward pass. But they're coming in here 0-2. 0-2. Cowboys are 1-1. Game is Sunday at 3:25 p.m. in good old AT&T, a.k.a. Jerry's World, a.k.a. Massacre Central. Cowboys have given up 90-plus points in the last 2 games they've played at home. Cowboys are a 1.5 underdog at a home game. 1.5 point underdog in a home game, courtesy of Las Vegas, right? Injury reports, some notable injuries for the Ravens. Kyle Van Noy, starting linebacker, has an eye issue and a groin issue. He was questionable today. He's listed as questionable on the injury report. Kyle Hamilton has a bad back. He's also listed as questionable. And Nate Wiggins, your starting nickel corner, who's a phenomenal cornerback out of Clemson. He is listed as questionable as well he's in the concussion protocol. Cowboys injuries, got some good news first. Jake Ferguson and John Stephens Jr. Jake Ferguson with the knee and John Stephens Jr. with the hamstring issue. Both limited practice. Looks like they might play. CeeDee Lamb did not practice today because of an ankle. He's listed as an ankle on the injury report. It's probably just rest. CeeDee's been ultra busy these last 2 games. Zach Martin was limited in practice with the banged up knee. Told you last game he went out. Anybody watched the game saw him go out because I think everybody's stomach kind of dropped when he was laying on the field, right? Went in the medical tent, came out like 2 or 3 plays later. He's got, looks like a knee bruise. He was limited in practice. Seems like he's going to be okay. Mozzie Smith, I mentioned it in a rant on the post-game show. Saw him get bent over backwards. Well, it looked like it might have tweaked his back. He did not practice today. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. And Trayvon Diggs did not practice because of a bad foot. Most of these things seem like they're precautionary. Just trying to get some players some rest. You got a big game on Sunday. Jordan Phillips was placed on the IR with a wrist injury. I saw him do a couple of things in the game that I don't say like I wasn't pleased with, but I wasn't a big fan of, right? It seemed like he was in reverse a lot. And dealing with the Ravens team, your defensive line, like back when I was playing football, my coaches used to tell me, they used to tell the defense, right, all the time, you have to change the line of scrimmage. You have to get penetration. And the Cowboy, especially the Cowboy interior defense, did not do a good job of that. I think, just watching the film and just watching how things were going, I think the best in the game really probably was Mozzie Smith. And that's saying a lot, right? He was getting penetration sometimes. But it wasn't very much penetration, which gave, the Saints kind of the freedom to do what they wanted to. And then when your defensive lineman, especially your interior defensive lineman, and I know that the Saints ran a lot around the perimeter, right? But they had some runs off tackle as well, where you have a chance to get upfield and kind of disrupt things in the backfield. Even if you just disrupt the blocking scheme and you leave the running back out there, by himself, he doesn't have a lead blocker with him. And that way, it makes it a little bit easier to tackle him, right? We didn't do a good job of that in this last game. So Jordan Phillips goes on the IR. which, is not a bad thing. It's 4 weeks, it gives him a chance to heal up, maybe get into some, some better playing shape. Maybe he's out of shape. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. Cowboys did sign, and I want to say it was Malik Collins. They signed him today, just off the Redskins practice squad. I'll get you the name later, but just a player that they've had in the past. Somebody to come in and fill a spot, really get into this rotation, get an opportunity to play, right? Because the Cowboys need a spark, especially on defense. You got to have a spark. And that spark is going to have to come from this defensive line. Ends did not play well. Ends ended up getting chipped a lot, right? Didn't see the Swiss Army knife in Micah Parsons. He literally lined up at defensive end like the whole game. I thought it would have been good to maybe put him in the middle and let him run around. He's fast. He can get around a lot of blocks. Not necessarily through it, but just kind of knife in between blocks and kind of make some tackles. Not saying that Kendricks didn't do a good job. Kendricks was just late on a lot of tackles, and it was late because he was trying to maneuver through traffic, right? Well, the Ravens come in here. They're going to come in here with literally the Naval Academy offense of the NFL. That's what they are. It is a very, very, very confusing offense to defend. They run a lot of 12 personnel, which is one running back, 2 tight ends. They got a new toy. And Chris Henry, who lives in Dallas, works out in Dallas in the offseason. And the Cowboys never gave him a phone call. And the weakest position that the Cowboys have in their locker room is running back, right? He is going to give you a lot of looks just right off tackle, right into the Cowboys' weakness on defense, which is the defensive tackles. That's what he's going to give you. They have phenomenal tight ends in Likely and Andrews. Phenomenal tight ends. They run that 12 personnel and they'll line up, 2 tight ends, one on the left, one on the right. They'll line them up both on one side. They'll run a fullback and motion that fullback into the tight ends, right? And then you have the reigning defending league MVP at quarterback, which is ultra dangerous because a lot of times you have danger, like teams have a good running back, teams have a good wide receiver, teams have a good quarterback. This guy is the best athlete on the field every time he takes the field, and he's a danger throwing the ball, not as much throwing the ball, but he's got elite talent running the football, elite talent. In my personal opinion, there is only one elite quarterback in the NFL, and that is Patrick Mahomes. He is the elite of the elite in the NFL. He's the guy, right? There are, however, a lot of quarterbacks that have elite attributes, and Lamar Jackson's elite attribute is his feet. He is phenomenal once he takes the ball and decides to tuck it and take off running, whether it's in a passing situation or in a design run situation. There's a lot of times that you'll see when they play, when they're on offense, they'll have Likely and Andrews on one side. They'll motion their fullback to the other side. And in your mind, right, in the defense's mind, it's like, here comes power right or here comes power left. And what they'll do is Lamar Jackson will literally fake the handoff to the right, to the left, whatever the strong side is, and he'll just bootleg around to the other side. And he's all alone. And that is a nightmare for any defense, right? And they make a living doing this. He'll also bootleg, and he's got Likely and Andrews. Likely is more of your athletic tight end. He's your guy that's going to go up, make great catches, come down. He may be just a half a toe out of bounds to win a football game against the defending Super Bowl champions on the first game of the season, right? He makes a lot of hard catches. Mark Andrews is just Mr. Consistency. He knows how to get open. He's a wily old veteran. He gets open. He comes across the middle. He can go up the seam. He can run, a 5-yard out, stiff arm a linebacker, get him into the ground and get up the field for 20, 30 yards. That's what he does. And then they have Zay Flowers. And Zay Flowers is like what that offense was missing for some years. Rashawn Bateman is a good wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. And then they went and got Zay Flowers, and Zay Flowers gives you that electricity, right? He's the guy that'll come in motion and get a jet sweep. He's the guy that they'll fake a jet sweep to, and Lamar Jackson will run, roll right, roll left, whichever way Flowers came from, the opposite way, and he'll throw the ball back across the field to him, and leave him out there. And in some one-on-one situations, he's gonna make the first guy miss. You know what I mean? And then he gets down the field and makes some catches. The thing that the Cowboys are going to have to do in this game, of course, is just stop the run. You have to stop the run. And you can guarantee that the Ravens are going to come in here with a game plan that we are just going to run the football until you stop it, right? Run it until you stop it. And the Cowboys have had a hard time doing that. They have. They did a really good job in week 1. Jacoby Ford had, a couple of runs. I think he had one run for 14 yards. That was like his longest run. But in week 2 with Kamara and these kind of tricky eye candy deep offenses, right? Cowboys struggle with that. And this is like the worst of the worst of them, right? There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be happening. And then you always have to be cognizant of where Lamar Jackson is at all times. He is, if things break down and he takes off running, like you have to run a spy. And we'll talk about more like keys to the game and what I think the Cowboys have to do in order to stop this offense on Saturday. Offensively, the Cowboys are going to have to get something going. They're going to have to. My issue this year is there seems to be a lot of plays called, and all the plays called seem it just seems, and it doesn't even really seem like it. They're called for CeeDee Lamb. You're gonna have to get these other receivers involved in the game some kind of way. Even if you have to use the pass to open the run, like you have to do something, right? You have to. We can't just run CD on slant. CD's the only one flying down the field, on 9 routes. There's ways that you can do this, right, with the personnel that you have. Jalen Tolbert did a good job last game and had 6 catches. He, one play on the deep pass, I think he caught for 43 yards. It was definitely pass interference. I mean, the defender was draped all over him. He still contorted his body, backwards and made the catch. Excellent catch by Tolbert, right? He ended up with 6 catches. Get him involved. You have the thing that kind of amazes me about the Cowboys is they are very one-dimensional in what they do. And what I mean by one-dimensional, like they're predictable, right? Very predictable. CeeDee Lamb's the one that's going to go deep. CeeDee Lamb's the one that's going to run the post. CeeDee Lamb is the one that's going to come across the middle. CeeDee Lamb is the one that's going to run the curl. CeeDee Lamb is the one that's going to run the out. It's CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb, right? And you have so many other options, but you can tell like these plays are designed to get CeeDee Lamb the ball. And I know that's your $30 million toy, $34 million toy, and you're going to use him, right? But you have to give him some opportunities to catch the ball with some space, and where he can do some dynamic things down the field. Even on the 60-yard touchdown that he scored the other day, he ducked under 2 defenders. And that's the only reason that it was open, because there was literally 2 dudes on him when Dak threw the ball. Great pass, great catch, great play after the catch, great run, great score, right? They put the Cowboys within 7, I think 6. You have so many weapons. And what I mean by weapons is like you have speed that you just don't use. I don't understand why the Cowboys do not use KaVontae Turpin in a different capacity. I don't understand it. He's the fastest guy on your team. He's definitely the fastest guy on offense, right? You run him on jet sweeps and you run him on 5-yard outs, right? And you literally get him killed almost every time you have the ball. Why not use Turpin to blow the roof off the defense? Even if you don't throw him the ball. If I'm McCarthy, I'm telling Dak like, hey, Turpin's going to line up in the slot and he's going to run a straight 9, right? That's what he's doing. He's running a 9. And I want you to overthrow him by 15 yards. Just to make the defense think about it. Just think about it. If they know, it seems like defenses, when they play the Cowboys, they kind of run like, it's almost like an umbrella defense where you line up 12 to 15 yards off the ball and you just play in, right? Because that's where the ball's going. The ball's going inside of that umbrella, right? put a hole in the umbrella and send him deep. You got Brandon Cooks, who was a 4-3 guy, right? He's probably still high 4-3, low 4-4s, right? Send him deep. Line him up in the slot and send him deep. Man, that loosens up so much stuff, where you want it, where you want to throw the football. If you want to throw the ball in the intermediate range, that's fine. But you can't have everybody intermediate. You're not running any crossing routes. You got to blow the top off of it, man. Make them safeties turn around, take off running, and run something underneath them, and that'll make them respected every time. And every time they jump CeeDee Lamb from then on, you got Turpin deep, and you can hit him. Like, this is simple football 101 stuff. This is what it is. And the Cowboys are doing a bad job at it this year. They are. I'm hoping that things change. I'm hoping that they just open this thing up. You have to get other people involved. I'm glad that Ferguson may come back, even Stevens. I'm glad. It gives Dak another target. In this last game, right, there was literally no separation. You look at it, there was one play down on the goal line where this is where Dak fumbled, right? He fumbled on the third down. He rolled right. Terrence Steele missed his block tremendously bad. He had people at his feet. But if you look at the wide frame of the shot, everybody's covered, right? Everybody's covered except for Rico Dowdle. But the only way Dak could have completed that pass was immediately catch the snap, turn, and throw the ball to Dowdle. That's the only way he could have completed it, because he got flushed left, right? Because the right tackle missed his block. So he got flushed left. Dowdle kind of looped over on the right into the flat right, and he was open over there. But everybody else in the end zone was covered. CeeDee Lamb was double covered like immediately. They double covered him immediately. Tolbert ran kind of a lazy route. Cooks ran to the corner, but that safety just sprinted straight to the corner because he knew what was coming, right? These are the kind of things against this defense, and this Baltimore Ravens defense is trickier than that because they run the 3-4 like people don't see the 3-4 all the time. And Roquan Smith, the middle linebacker, is a dog. He is an animal, and he plays strong side middle linebacker, and he is going to be everywhere. Everywhere. Kyle Hamilton, as long as he's healthy and he can play, he's going to roam around the center field. And they have good corners. They have decent safeties. Kyle Hamilton is an excellent safety, right? And they play pretty strong on the defensive line with their 3-down linemen. Strong outside linebackers. They're going to play a very physical football game. And let's be honest, the Ravens are a more physical football team than the Saints are. They are. And the Cowboys have not handled physical football teams well, in the last 2 or 3 years. They just haven't, right? So is this a must-win situation? I think even though the Ravens are 0-2, they are going to come into Cowboy Stadium, AT&T, Jerry's World, whatever you want to call it. They are going to come in with an urgency to win a football game. They are going to come in and they are going to refuse to go 0-3. And the Cowboys are going to have to match that intensity if they want to win this football game. If not, going to be 1-2. Hopefully, and then you got a quick turnaround because you play Thursday night. You play the Giants Thursday night. Hopefully, you don't catch them on a hot night, or you could be looking at a 1-3 start. And it gets progressively harder after that. Progressively harder. Because I think right after you play the Giants, you got Pittsburgh, and then after that, you have the Lions, and then I think you get a bye week, and then you get San Francisco, and then you get Philly. Even though Philly doesn't look that great this year. But still, it's Philly. It's a rivalry game. They're gonna come in and you're gonna get their best effort. You're gonna get the best effort of every single team that you play. Strictly because they want to beat the Cowboys. That's just what it is, right? The pressure is on Dallas. That's who the pressure is on. And in the recent past, the Cowboys have not handled pressure well. They haven't handled pressure well at all. And you have to match this intensity that the Ravens are going to come in with. They're not gonna come in here and lay down because they do not want to go 0-3. That's just what it is. They're not gonna want to go 0-3, and they are not. Excuse me. They're not gonna want to go 0-3. They're gonna come in. They're going to be physical. They're gonna be tough. They're gonna play hard-nosed football. They're gonna try to run the ball down your throat. And all of these things that they're gonna come in with, the Cowboys have not handled those things. They haven't. And it's kind of troublesome that they're coming in this week, especially 0-2. I would much rather them be 2-0, riding the high, and maybe we catch them slipping a little bit, but they won't. They'll be firing on all cylinders on Sunday. Unfortunately, that's my game preview for this week. This is going to be a tough football game. This is going to be tough. The Saints came in here. They may have surprised us a little bit. You know what I mean? But I always say, like, if you underestimate somebody, you underestimate them for like a quarter. And then you realize, like, oh, they came in here to whoop our ass. Like, we better tighten up. And the Cowboys just laid down. Again, right? Again. Eerily similar to the playoff game against Green Bay. Eerily similar, where they could just run and pass and just do whatever the hell they want to do. And a lot of people don't realize, because, you know, just walking around work or whatever, you know, people always ask me stuff because, you know, they kind of know I do this now. You know, some people know I do this now. They like, well, what'd you think about the game? And I'm like, well, we couldn't stop the run. What you expect? Like, we couldn't stop the run or the pass. Well, here's the thing about football, right? If you can't stop the run, you overcommit to the run, and then you get burned with play action passes or screenplays, right? Because you're overly committed to the run. And then you back off because you're like, oh no, they just hit us with a screen. They just hit us with a play action pass, right? And then they just go right back to the run. And now they got you all confused and you don't know what to do, right? Stop the run. Make them one-dimensional. So therefore you can use this pass rush that you have. You can use all these blitz packages that you have. You can use your Swiss Army knife and Micah Parsons better, right? But the number one key, and it's going to be this way the entire season because everybody has seen this New Orleans game, right, is you're going to have to stop the run. And you play offenses in these next 5 weeks that love to run the football. They love to run the football. That's what they do, right? And you're going to have to tighten up. That's just what it is. The defense is going to have to tighten up. They have to, right? Okay, so Saturday, we'll talk about keys to the game. I'll tell you what the Cowboys need to do offensively and defensively in order to squeeze this game out. This is going to be a struggle. Like the Saints game, that was a surprise struggle that you just completely let get out of hand, right? This one has the potential to be out of hand at kickoff. It can be if you let it get that way, especially with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. It can get out of hand fast, very fast. I think it got out of hand this past Sunday fast. This one will get out of hand even faster. I'll give you my prediction, what I think will happen. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that the Cowboys are going to win this football game. I don't. They haven't given anybody any kind of inclination that they can win it, right? They haven't. Physicality is something that the Cowboys lack. Intensity is something that the Cowboys lack. Urgency is something that the Cowboys lack. And all three of those things are coming in a bundle that's called the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday at 3:25 p.m. in Arlington. It's coming, right? But there are things that the Cowboys can do to offset it. There are definitely things they can do to offset it, and the number one priority should be stopping the run. That should be the number one priority. So we'll do that Saturday. Keys to victory, key matchups in the game, and we'll also do predictions. This is gonna be interesting, real interesting. Sunday, right after the game, again. I'm not going to this one. Sunday after the game, we'll come on right after the game and we'll talk about it, right? And we'll break it all down and we'll see what happens. And I'm just hoping that we can talk about a victory this time. I'm hoping that we can. All right, everybody. I'm right at my 30-minute mark. We did good. We talked Cowboy shit for 30 minutes. That's perfect. All right. You guys have a great evening. I will see you all Saturday afternoon, evening time frame, right? Got some good games going on Saturday. We'll be checking those out. And Texas is number 1 in the country. Can't beat that. All right, everybody. Cowboy C3, you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll talk again on Saturday. And then, of course, we'll be on here after the game and we'll talk about it on Sunday. All right. You guys have a great evening. See y'all soon. Peace.